I've never had to pay more taxes after filing my tax return. Usually I get a refund from the IRS. Why would I have a payment due this year? What's changed? Thanks for watching College Tax Refunds. I'm Steve Hunt. I'm a certified public accountant, and I'm the consultant for prosperity and adventure. And today I'm in front of a picture that I took of the Eastgate, or Ostentor, built in 1284 in the old town of Regensburg, Bavaria, Germany. It's a beautiful gate and building, and it's a beautiful town and city. And today I want to share my own answer to the question that I found on Quora. And that question is, so I've never had to pay more after filing my tax return. And I've never changed anything either. Why would I suddenly have a payment due this year if my paycheck should be withholding enough to pay everything? Unfortunately, there's not really enough information in the question to provide a valid specific answer as to why the original poster's tax has gone up this year. But those of you watching this video probably don't want to know why that person's taxes went up. You want to know why your taxes went up. And I don't know if you're watching this video for the 2022 tax year, which is when this was made, or for some other year, but I'm going to provide as many answers or possibilities as I can, so maybe you can identify why your taxes went up. For example, this year the W-4 changed. That's the form that you give to your employer. The tax brackets changed this year, as they do almost every year. The child tax credit dropped this year, 2022, after a one-year increase for the pandemic in 2021, and these and many other things could have affected your taxes. So let's dive in. What are some possible reasons that you have a payment due this year for the first time? It may be that you filled out your W-4 incorrectly. This is the form that you are supposed to fill out every year and give to your employer, your HR, or your payroll department, so they can use the information about your income and about your filing status and dependents and such to figure out how much money to withhold from your paycheck so that they don't withhold too much or too little. And it's possible that you filled out this form incorrectly, or you didn't fill it out this year, especially when there was a new one for 2022. You should have filled out a new one, and they might be using an old one. Or it could be that, yeah, like I said, you didn't talk to an accountant or a CPA or somebody who understands taxes to help you make sure that you're filling it out correctly. And that would be a wise idea to make sure that your employer doesn't withhold too much taxes or too little. And it's also possible that you did fill out your W-4 and you filled it out correctly, and your payroll people or HR or employer actually made a mistake. Now, that is a less likely scenario than the first one, but I wanted to point out that it is possible. You might have switched jobs in the middle of the year, and if you did this, you had to fill out a W-4 again, and this time your new employer didn't really know how much you made in the first half of the year, or maybe your income changed a little bit from the first half to the second half, and it's just possible that that threw a wrench in the works and could have caused your withholding to be incorrect. It could be that you've been negatively affected by the decrease in the child tax credit. As I said a few minutes ago, the child tax credit went up for 1 year only in 2021 because of the pandemic. It jumped to about $3,000 for older children and $3,600 for really young children. But it reverted in 2022 to the $2,000 child tax credit. And so you may have been affected by this reversion, and you may be getting less of a credit this year, and that might have affected how much money you owe at the end of the year. It's also possible that your child tax credit went up or down simply based on your income. You could have too much income to claim the full child tax credit, or even too little income to claim the child tax credit. Now, you might have a child that turned 18. That ages them out of the child tax credit. You no longer get the $2,000. You can still get a $500 dependent credit for a child that's over 18. That's over 17. But you cannot get the full $2,000 child tax credit once they turn 18. It's also possible that you have a dependent who aged out entirely from being your dependent. They're no longer a student. They no longer live at your home. And so you may have lost that dependent credit. And that might be affecting your taxes this year. You might not qualify anymore to file as married filing jointly or head of household, and so your filing status changed. Maybe you're filing singly or separately from your spouse, and so that change in filing status can affect your tax brackets and your taxes. Also can affect whether or not you qualify for certain credits. Perhaps your earned income credit has been reduced. Now, this is not the same as the child tax credit, which is based on how many children you have. The earned income credit does connect to how many children you have, but this one is based on how much earned income you made. If you made too little earned income, you may not receive a large earned income credit. And if you made too much income, your earned income credit can also be reduced. This earned income credit is essentially for low-income tax filers, people who didn't have a lot of earned income. And that may have affected your taxes this year. And of course, if your income went up this year, you might be in a higher tax bracket and owe more tax. And that's just what happened and why you owe more taxes this year. Although based on the question where you were asking what happened, nothing changed, it seems unlikely that this is the reason, because you probably would have figured that out already. Now, it's also possible that you lost certain credits that I haven't already mentioned, like the Education Lifetime Learning Credit, the American Opportunity Tax Credit, or even the Retirement Savings Credit, Savers Credit. These credits are available if you put money away for retirement, for example, or if you've paid for education for somebody that's your dependent, and perhaps this year you lost the ability to claim one of those credits, and that has affected your taxes this year. You may have also lost certain carryovers, loss carryovers, things like net operating losses, where in a previous year you had some losses from a business and you were rolling those forwards and using them to offset your income. You may have also had some charitable contributions that you made, some very large ones in a past year that are being carried forward, and now you have that's expired. You can no longer use that loss, or a capital loss carryover, that perhaps in a past year you lost a lot of money on some kind of an investment, and you've been carrying over those losses from year to year, and now those losses have expired. And because of that, your taxes went up this year. It's possible that this year you had a one-time massive capital gain. Perhaps you sold some property, some a building or land that you didn't live in, or maybe you sold some other stocks, and you had a massive capital gain and you owe tax on that. Now, once again, this one seems unlikely because the questioner said, I don't understand, nothing changed, why do I owe more tax? And most people who have had a large influx of capital income capital gains would understand that that's probably why their taxes went up. It's also possible that you had income from a side business that in the past you haven't usually had. Maybe some non-employee compensation. You might have been paid under the table and you reported it on your tax return, which is a good thing, by the way. All of these things can drastically increase your taxes because you have what's called self-employment tax. And especially if it's a new side business, a new gig that you've never reported before, you may not be aware that the self-employment tax is more than 15% of your side business income, net income. So that could be affecting your taxes. Maybe you also forgot to deduct some business deductions. If you had a side gig or side business, you absolutely should take as many business deductions as you can. So any expense that you had while you were trying to make money is usually deductible. Okay, so you can deduct everything that you spent in order to make money, as long as you kept your receipts and as long as you can show that that's why you had that expense, that it's a reasonable expense to make money. So don't forget those business deductions. And also, if you have some massive itemized deductions, don't forget to take those. Things like your interest on your home and your property, your investment property, your medical expenses, if you had massive medical expenses, and if you're used to having those, your taxes, if you paid huge state taxes or sales taxes, and your charitable contributions, if you pay a large percentage of your income towards charity. Don't forget to take all of those itemized deductions. And finally, it may simply be that you're just using TurboTax, or you're using some home tax software and you're trying to prepare the taxes yourself. And unfortunately, whatever tax software you're using is only as good as the tax preparer who is actually preparing the tax return. That's usually you. And unfortunately, if you don't know all the ins and outs of your tax software, it's very easy to miss something. In fact, it's sometimes easy for professional accountants and CPAs to miss deductions if they're working with a taxpayer who's not really in their area of expertise. If you're in an industry with your business where your CPA doesn't specialize in that industry, or if you're a student and your CPA doesn't specialize working with students, it's very easy for a professional tax preparer to miss all of the ins and outs of the tax law about your industry and about your specific tax situation. So you should definitely look at talking to a CPA. See, there are probably several reasons why you might owe tax this year. It could be a combination of everything we've talked about. But there's no possible way for me or for anyone else answering this question to know the actual answer to why your taxes went up this year without actually looking at your tax return and comparing it with your previous years. I forgot to mention too It's possible that your previous year's tax returns were all wrong, and this is the first year that it's actually right. Maybe whoever was preparing your tax returns in the past did them incorrectly, and now the person who's preparing your tax returns has finally done them right. That's a very good possibility. And so the mistakes that you make when you prepare your tax returns yourself, or any of these other mistakes that I mentioned, could be costing you hundreds or thousands of dollars. Now, if you think your taxes might possibly be wrong by hundreds or thousands of dollars, I strongly recommend that you ask a certified public accountant who specializes in your industry or in your area of tax to look at your tax return. Most professional accountants want to save you more money than they actually cost, and so it's absolutely worth talking to a CPA. And what do you think? What are there reasons that your tax situation might be different this year than other years? Which one related to your situation? What do you think of my answer? Please go ahead and leave your thoughts and questions below. Now, I found and answered this question on Quora.com. You can ask me your question in the comments below, or you can ask me a question at Quora.com. I'm Steve Hunt there. Before you leave, please like this video and subscribe. Maybe share this video with someone who needs to know this information, and try some of my other videos. Thank you so much for watching. Slava Ukraini!